Welcome, everyone, to episode 11 of the 9 to 5 Faith podcast. I am so excited to introduce you to Dr. Tony Krohn on the podcast today as we talk about health and wellness and what it is like to run a business in today's world and keep God at the center. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode here with Dr. Anthony Krohn. I feel so official calling you that. Anthony, how the heck are you?
It's just Anthony. We can just call me Anthony. It works just fine. That's what people call me, or they call me Tony in practice. So either one.
Tony. Oh,
Yeah.
I should have asked that. I was like thinking what's the short for Anthony?
Yeah.
I did not put that together in my brain.
Yeah. Everyone's like, "Are you Italian?" I'm like, "No, I'm actually like German and Irish." So no, my mom just liked the name Anthony. So
Yeah.
yeah, Tony's perfect. Anthony's perfect. We can cut the doctor out.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I like informalities, but also you worked your butt off to get that doctor. So I always like to respect that at the beginning for sure.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a grind, and it definitely got me to where I am today, for sure.
Yes, that's awesome. So where are you? Let's talk about that. Where are you? Where the heck are you?
Yeah, so I am in Nashville, Tennessee. Which we'll get into the conversation. I was working in Spring Hill, so I've lived here for the past 3 years. Had a job as an associate chiropractor down in Spring Hill at a private practice. So I was making the 30-minute commute south, and then decided to move from Nashville to Franklin, which cut it at like to 10-minute drive. And then I'm a city kid. I missed downtown Nashville, even though I grew up in a town of about 1,600 people in Nebraska. Maybe that's why I love the city so much, because I had to drive an hour for a Walmart. Um, and we just had fast food. We had no like Applebee's or stoplights or anything. So I think I'm just like absorbing the big-ish city life. So I'm up in Nashville now.
Very exciting, very exciting. And you said you were an associate chiropractor at an office. What's the situation now?
Yeah. So I'm sure by the time this airs out, I will be all in on my own chiropractic practice. So I event like coming out of chiropractic or in chiropractic school, you have three options. You can associate and work under someone, you can rent out a space from someone, or you can start your own. I had absolutely no desire to start my own practice because I was like, I have high six figures in debt. I don't know what I'm doing. I want someone to show me the ropes. So I was like, I'm going to work under someone else's name and soak in as much information. So by the time that I'm ready to open my own practice, I know what I'm doing. So about a year ago, little less than that, I just felt the push and the stir from the Lord to finally go off on your own, make the leap. So this would have been towards the end of last year, and then I sat down with my boss end of the year, and I just said, "Hey, um, it's time for me to go on my own. I appreciate everything that we've done, and it's been a very smooth transition. No animosity, no hard feelings. Obviously, they want to keep me there, and I want to stay with my patients down in Spring Hill. But I felt a bigger push and a bigger calling to what my new practice is going to be. So yeah, I am a business owner of Krohn
That's so
Functional
exciting.
Wellness. Yeah,
That's so exciting. An awesome name, by the way.
thank you. Yeah, we're just kind of combining a bunch of different stuff so then I can have all the tools to help whoever walks through my door. So yeah.
So I totally agree with the whole not wanting to go out on your own thing. I always said I would never do that. And, here I am kind of doing exactly that. How did you broach that conversation with your boss?
So I am someone who does not like to have the difficult conversation. I do not like confrontation. That's I mean, that's been my whole life, and there's a lot of like reasons behind that. But my boss sensed something. Um, I think I'm pretty good about not showing emotion and kind of coming off as I have it all together and everything's fine. And he started to sense that I had a little bit of that push. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I knew it had to happen, and I sat down with him at the end of the year, shaking and super nervous, and kind of teared up a little bit because I mean that's me saying that this is the end of what we've
Mhm.
been doing for the past 3 years. So very bittersweet, very nerve-wracking because I mean at that moment it's reality. You say, okay, I'm on my way out, and
There's no taking that
that's time to
back.
go. No taking it back. I mean, yeah, you can take it back and change your mind, but I'm like, no, like I'm fully trusting the Lord, and
Mhm.
he has a bigger call for me. So after like everyone says, once you have like the conversation, like you don't regret it. Like you just everyone to a degree has those nerves going into it, and then after you have it, you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad.
Time
Uh,
to take a deep breath. You just feel like
yeah.
this weight lifted off of you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No. So that conversation was really good. Ultimately, I want to practice a little bit different, and to respect his business and what he's built for the past
Mhm.
17 years. Um, it's just it was the right thing to do. I don't.
Yeah, and I think you're highlighting like a really important point there is like not only not only do you envision something different for yourself and you're not stepping away just so that you can build your own thing, but you're stepping away to honor what he's built, and it's a he, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
What he's built and the vision he had too. I've never really thought about it like that, but I think that's like really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I guess I'll kind of get into it now. You probably have the question coming, but I have noticed in my past 3 years, um, there the adjustment is amazing. Like it helps so many people, but it's only one piece of the equation. There's so much else that the person needs to fix whatever they're coming in with, whether it's some soft tissue work, whether it's some exercises to do at home. I've found that it goes even deeper than that, whether it's like nutrition support or again, even deeper than that. There's emotional levels that whether it happened to us in the past or there's some sort of stressor in our life that's causing our body to have this, we'll call it chaos or dysfunction going on. I started to pick up on those little like tendencies with the patients, and I'm like, okay, there's something to this. Like, yes,
Mhm.
we're getting them probably 90% better with what we're doing, but I know and I sense that there's something deeper that if they have the comfort and ability to address, not necessarily the hiding elephant in the room, I guess, the breakthrough is going to happen with their healing. So
Yeah.
I'm just like I'm an empath. I connect with people a little bit deeper. Like the things that some of my patients have shared with me, um, they don't tell you about this in chiropractic school or
Mhm.
really anything. They don't prepare you and say patients are going to come in and either have the best day ever or they just found out that their spouse is leaving them. And like, I don't know if it says it on my face. Right now, I have a
Mhm.
mustache, so probably not. But I mean, the things that they share with me, I'm like, wow, okay, I have a obligation to my patient to get them to the right person to help that, or just be there for them to be that open ear because that's part of healing also is
Mhm.
sharing the deep dirty stuff, within reason of course, uh,
Right.
to bring about that healing and the tears, the relief after they're able to share that and get that off their chest, has been really powerful, and just that level of trust that they have, um, obviously patient confidentiality is number one for me. So
Mhm.
they know, and I reiterate, I'm like, thank you so much for sharing. Like, none of this leaves these four walls. Like,
Right.
I'll be praying for you if that's like, if I know that they're walking with the Lord. If they're not walking with the Lord, I'm still going to pray for them. But yeah, it's just an opportunity to bring in so much more healing than what, say, you Google a chiropractor and what it says on Google.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you have me like wanting like chomping at the bit to go so many different ways with this because like I love this stuff and I've said for so many years just like in my little, boonies of Arizona, I'm like there needs to be a doctor where you can go to one doctor's office and get everything taken care of. I'm so tired of running to 8 different offices for one problem. Like
Yeah,
I've always
it's so
I've always
unfortunate how
yeah.
the system is set up that way. You go to the doctor and they send you over to a different specialty and they send you to a different specialty and there's no communication going on. And I think, and a lot of my colleagues also say that, like, chiropractic has the opportunity to be that gatekeeper, um,
Mhm.
because traditional medical doctors, family physicians, they don't have the training in like musculoskeletal complaints. They
Mm,
have the like sickness model, the medication down, but
right.
they weren't taught these like diagnoses and the treatment for like a non-pharmacological route. And
Yeah.
so our knowledge background and our education, like, we had to learn so many different systems. So then if a patient comes in with something that's glaring, like they cannot be adjusted, then we know, like, yeah, they need to go to this person. So
Right.
it's a really cool opportunity to meet the patient where they're at and kind of help them navigate or go to the right provider if they're not a right
Yeah.
match for you.
I have a lot of friends who are like, it's not healthcare, it's sick care. And I'm like, hey, ain't that the truth? They're not moving you towards health. They're only moving you when you're sick, rather than kind of your ability to have a better like health span in your life.
Yeah. It's
Have you
it's yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I resonate with that so much. It's my stepdad, so he's a family physician, and I mean, bless his heart, like, he's been practicing for, maybe 30 years, I don't know exactly, but it's just they only know what they're taught, and
Mhm.
so, yes, there is a sense of responsibility that you have to keep up with, um, today and what's required of today, but like they only know so much and they're amazing for the right time and place. Like, if I break my
Right.
arm, absolutely, I'm not going to the chiropractor. I'm
Right.
going to the doctor. But if I have like sniffles or if I have like some just like viral stuff going on, I mean, I used to like want to jump to
Right.
medication and antibiotics and all this medication, but our body is so much smarter, and God knew
Mhm.
exactly what he was doing. He knew that
Yeah.
we didn't need some sort of antiviral or medication that's just going to mask the symptoms. Like,
Mhm.
there's so much more, and we don't have to we
Yeah.
go down that sick care route. Like,
Right.
there's so many other options for us.
Yeah. Have you read the book The Body Keeps a Score?
Yeah, I
Yes.
actually read
When
that
you're
as
saying like the
yeah.
body holds on to different emotions, I was just like flashing through that in my head. It's a dense read for whoever's listening. If you like reading a textbook, like that's practically what it is. But like what you were hitting on of like our body stores our emotion in different ways and like the your regular, doctor's visit or even chiropractic visit like doesn't allow you to really identify like, oh, maybe I'm holding on to trauma from when I was a child and is manifesting in this way in my body. So when you're saying that, I was like, yes, I get so excited about this stuff too.
Yeah. That book is so good, and it's definitely not one that you pick up off the shelf and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna start this book." Like, it's some cool colors on the cover, and no, it's like
It's
you're
beefy.
actually learning, like, medical terms and all this stuff, and
Yeah,
it took me a long time to go through it, and I was
same.
just like, it's so much good information, and it's
Hmm.
so true.
Yeah. And you hit on another point too, which is actually really funny because one of the books that I'm writing right now is all about physical touch. And you hit on something of like people just spill their guts to me. And I was like, oh yeah, chiropractors too, because my hairdresser, I was telling her about this book and she goes, people sit in my chair and just tell me their entire life. And I'm like, yeah, and she's who else in the day touches you for 2 hours during your hair appointment? My hair appointments are clearly 2 hours, but you know what I mean. And so when you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, chiropractors. So it's good to know people spill their guts to chiropractors too.
That, and then also tattoo artists. They're like a
Oh,
glorified therapist. Like my
yeah.
tattoo artist knows my entire life.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, no, it's funny. Like
Because they're touching
they
you too. It's
yeah,
not
and
even just like talking,
you're there for 4 or 5 hours. You might as
right?
well just get to know them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spill your guts, share your life. So in this, future, actually, it'll probably be more present practice that you're going to be running. Where does God show up in all of this for you?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is knowing and using my spiritual gifts to the best of my ability. So I'm not sitting in my office with my patients preaching the gospel over and like opening up the Bible and having a Bible study with them. Now, if they want to do that, absolutely. But I'm using more of like my compassion and my healing, and just my like calm presence to give them a glimpse of what a Christ follower looks like.
Mm,
So that's kind of like my portrayal of like how I can be the hands and feet of the Lord, is just to like meet the patient where they are, and not like be preachy or pushy to them. um I'm being myself.
yeah,
And then as far as like other ways that like God shows up and like patients understand that like he's a part of my life and my job, like something as simple as just like playing Christian music
yeah.
in the treatment room. I get control of what music is played, so I always go with something like very acoustic or light, and it
Hobby
just has the
Lobby
opposite.
status.
Yeah, absolutely.
Christian music of acoustics just playing while you're walking the halls of Hobby
Oh, it's
Lobby.
so peaceful. Yeah. Um, yeah, I've always been someone who isn't the pushy
Hmm.
type of person. So I want them to know that like yes, we have one job in mind, is to get you out of pain, and for that matter, like get you out of pain fast.
Hmm.
There's so much more that goes into that piece, but if I like start to pick up and they start asking, or even if it's like, what'd you do this weekend? And they mention, oh, I was at church. I was like, oh, what church do you go to? Just like
Yeah.
little things like to slowly ease into the conversation, because it's you never know who's on your table, if it's going to be full blown Christian, or if it's going to be someone who's new to the faith, who's very intimidated, or someone who doesn't believe at all. So it's like there's some sort of respect that you got to have for the patient to not push them away.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you kind of straddle that line of like, we're called to be bold in our faith, but we're also called to walk alongside people. So like I think people hear those terms and think of like two ends of a spectrum,
Yeah.
right? Like how do
Um,
you kind of like find that middle balance of it all?
that's really tough every day.
Yeah.
I think since I have the pleasure of getting to see patients multiple times,
Mm.
I have the ability to develop that rapport with them and like start to kind of introduce that topic. Um, some of my questions, not like being manipulative at all, but
Hmm.
I do want to kind of get to know where they are in their spiritual journey,
Yeah.
because part of my practice, like I want to be able to pray for them and
Hmm.
help them a little bit deeper. So if it's, I mean, for example, I had um, a patient come in. She was 39 weeks pregnant. I've been with them through her whole pregnancy. I knew that there were Christians. Um, they were having some complications around 39 weeks, which is a scary time. And I
Mm.
felt the Lord during that appointment. He's like, you got to pray for him. Like,
Mm.
and this was still at the old office, and I don't
Mm.
regret doing this at all.
Mm.
Um, I it took me probably like 10 minutes because I was doing treatment, and
Yeah.
then I was like, 2 years ago, I would have just like shut that door. I wouldn't have even
Yeah.
like honored that, and like being able to pray for them and like show them I'm not just someone in a white coat, even though I don't wear a
Right.
white coat. Uh, that I care and like actually want to help them, like that. One, it just like really filled me up, and I
Mm.
felt like in a way like that Jesus pat on the back, like thank you for like honoring me,
Mm.
like choosing to pray, but
Mm.
also their like comfort and like the situation, like obviously first time mom, parents, and something's going wrong, and just like to know that like other people other than your family or close friends have your back. That's just a cool opportunity. Now, do I pray for
Yeah.
every patient while they're there on the table? No. Is it something I'm going to explore? Absolutely. But it's
Yeah.
also that fine line between being bold or walking alongside them. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a developed kind of that intuition. Like,
Hmm.
are they ready to have me pray over them, or is it still like they're kind of dipping their toes in the water and I'm not ready to push them all the way in yet, kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like at least being in the like healthcare industry, right? Like I mean, depending on kind of your faith kind of upbringing, some of the physical manifestations of pain and illness could be not Christ. Like,
Yeah.
it could be demonic. It could be something, evil manifesting in their body. Like going back to what we were saying, like, hey, my body holds on to trauma these ways, right? Like that was a past, injustice against you, a past trauma against you. And that's how your body's still holding on to it. So all these things are so interconnected.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Isn't it wonderful?
The body's so like intricately designed and like so complicated, but
Yeah.
it like fuels me. It's like I want to learn more and more and
Yeah.
more. So
Yeah. I think it's funny that like people a lot of scientists are rather agnostic or atheist. And I'm like, do you see what is in front of you? Like, do you
gosh,
see
yeah.
what is it like what the body can do, what nature can do? Like, how is that possible?
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast. So Dr. Daniel Amen, he's a psychiatrist. He just wrote a book, but being a psychiatrist and even in the medical community, he's a strong Christian, and he talks about like having that spiritual component in part of your healing. And some of like his colleagues and scientists are like, why are you pushing Jesus? Like, why are you pushing the Lord? And he like straight up says, he's like, how can you like avoid this or not believe in this? Like some of
Right.
the healings that happen and miracles that happen, how do you explain that? And
Yeah.
so it's so true. Like yeah, it's just hard to believe that some people just haven't
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
yeah.
and God's our ultimate healer, so it would make sense. I was just fishing around on my desk because I have this book. This is another beefy book, but it's The Body, a guide for occupants, and it is so good. It's not necessarily Christian or faith-based in nature, but it goes through all the body systems. Like it starts with like on a cellular level, and like you're just reading this, and you're like, dang, that like the body is so cool and God is so cool for designing this. And like it didn't just happen one day, right? Like it was intelligently designed.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit because I could like nerd out over this stuff all the time, all day long. So you talked a little bit about like what practicing your faith in the workplace looks like. What about practicing your faith outside the workplace? How do you make sure leave space for, your church community and for developing disciples and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so it's actually funny we talk about this. Our church just had a sermon on Mary and Martha.
Mm,
So I tend to be more of the male version of a Martha. I'm very like I wouldn't say I'm very like OCD, like schedule, like have a
mhm,
routine, but I do like to have a pretty solid routine where I'm going to bed at the same time, close to the
right.
same time every night. I'm waking up really early because then that's given me the opportunity to spend some time in the Word. So our church does a daily devotional. So there's a reading, and then they have videos to do a soap method, which they
Mm,
talk about. So it's the scripture, you observe it, you apply it, and then it's prayer.
mhm,
So that's something I do in the morning. The Jesus calling is it's just s- ways to spend more time with the Lord. And it's
mhm,
since I'm up by 5 every morning, like my roommate, he isn't up until 7, so it's just my quiet time
mm,
to either put on a podcast or a sermon series and slowly make my coffee, make my breakfast, slowly get ready in the morning. I'm using those few hours just spending time in
mhm.
whatever it is, whatever
Yeah.
medium I can to just soak in what the Lord has for me, whether it's listening to worship music or you name it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my mornings. When I was driving to Spring Hill, that was a 30-minute drive each way. So really good opportunity again to listen to podcasts
Mhm.
or listen to music or call a friend who I haven't talked to in a while. So
Yeah.
filling that space with productive, meaningful time. And then, I mean, the weekends, Sunday mornings, I'm serving at church. I'm going to
Mhm.
church. So I'm doing on paper a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to have that healthy balance of making sure I'm investing in my faith walk, my journey,
Mhm.
but it's not going through the motions.
Yeah.
So that's been it tends to be a struggle for people who have that like rigid schedule to where
Mhm.
everything's kind of mapped out in the day and they're just going through the motions. So I'm trying to be a little bit more loose with that to if something takes a little bit longer or I don't get to it, I'm not like beating myself up over it. I'm just making sure that I'm being intentional with
Yeah.
everything that I'm doing each day.
Yeah. I need to get some like real spontaneity on this podcast because everyone I've been talking to, no shame, because I'm like this too. It's like I have a schedule. I put my Jesus time in my schedule. And I'm like, yes, like that is the ideal goal. And that's how I would like ideally operate. But like it's a lot of us. But I'm also like, is it so much so that we're all like that? Or is it just like this is just an underrated way to follow Jesus and like in a very practical way, this is what your day could look like is putting in a calendar invite for your quiet time.
Yeah, I think I wonder that all the time too. And I think there is, and not to like bluntly call people out, but I think there is just some like laziness in people.
Hmm.
It's like, can
Call
you
people out. I'm here for it.
okay,
Absolutely.
perfect. Wake up 10 minutes earlier. Like
Mm,
it's not that hard to wake up a little bit, or you're in the car, throw on a podcast. Like there's so
yeah.
many different like ways to switch up your routine. Like shoot, are you getting ready in the morning and you're scrolling Instagram, or right when you wake up, do you grab your phone and go straight to social media? One, that's so bad for your health because you're getting that blue light from the screen. You're not slowly adjusting your eyes. Um, but as you're slowly waking up, like throw on some Christian music or say a prayer, or
Mhm.
when you go to bed, like put the phone somewhere completely away from your bed, turn off the TV, say a prayer, practice gratitude journaling, whatever
Mhm.
it looks like. Like people like to overcomplicate it and make the excuse that there's no time. But if you're really being honest with yourself, you have all it takes is 2 seconds to say thank you, Lord. And it can
Yeah.
look like that. Like it doesn't have to be this drawn out. I'm spending 2 hours reading 5 chapters of the Bible and journaling and brushing my teeth while Michael Smith is playing, or it doesn't have to look
Right.
like that. Like it's everyone's walk looks different, but you honestly you have to do something every day.
Yeah.
Otherwise it just like it's yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, like, again, like our culture tends to like cling on to the extremes, right? And so like we see the extreme of like, oh, I do this every single day. And then there's the other extreme of like, don't be so legalistic. You don't have to do it every single day. There's a happy place in the middle of like set up these routines for yourself. And then guess what? If one day doesn't happen, like that's okay. But it's like building the blocks of your faith to be able to support your walk with Christ.
Mhm. Absolutely. If
And,
you
and
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I was just reiterating my point that I said earlier. Like, if you're being honest with yourself, you have a couple minutes in the day to
Yeah.
do something that's going to better your faith. Even if
Yeah.
it's like I said, my practice, I'm not preaching the word, but I'm being that empathetic, that servant in the office, and it doesn't have to be this grand like plan that you talked about. It's as easy
Hmm.
as like telling someone to have a good day, smiling at them, or it's
Hmm.
just being a good person also looks like being a faithful servant of Jesus. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like I'll say those little like nuggets, breadcrumbs that you leave throughout your day, like they stick with other people. Um, for example, when I was a kid, my mom would always blast FFH. If you are a 90s kid, you know who that is. If you're not a 90s kid, Google it. But she would always blast it. It's just a Christian worship band when she cleaned. Like that was her thing. She would like have it on loud, be cleaning the entire house, and just be blasting, Christian music while she cleaned. And I core memory like that is stuck in there of like just a really easy basic way. Now she also listened to Dr. Laura. Any other 90s children will remember Dr. Laura in the pickup line. And now I can say the entire Dr. Laura intro, right? Like that stuff sticks with you. So whether it's Dr. Laura or worship music, it sticks with you. And I wasn't even the one doing it, it was my mother. So it also impacts the people around you.
100%. Yeah.
And same with a Christian, like it's like these passive, it's like subliminal messaging almost. Like these
It
really
really
passive
is.
ways of like just breadcrumb, like like here are all the
Yep.
ways I have Jesus in my life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Playing the worship music over the music. My hairdresser used to do that as well. And she actually sold the salon. And then the first thing the new owners did was take away the Christian music.
Oh
And it was
gosh.
noticed. It was
Yeah.
crazy. Like a lot of the clients ended up noticing. I was like, huh, that's good to know.
Yeah. Good. I mean, just another good conversation piece too. Like
Hmm.
asking or learning that the client like picked up on that. Like that's
Yeah.
an easy opportunity to continue that conversation. So
Yeah, for sure. So I I love and I also hate this question because one of the things that I like to highlight, um, especially again, we're a culture of extremes and like, everyone thinks that like, oh, Christians have it all together. No, we don't. We are broken and flawed. So I always like to just touch on what's something that you struggle with your faith walk. What's your biggest struggle when it comes to practicing your faith in the day to
yeah.
day?
Yeah, so I grew up Catholic, uh,
Mm,
and I'm so thankful for like having that background and going to a Catholic grade school, and then like still practicing to some degree my Catholic faith, but recently, like last year, I just got baptized.
Mm,
I had a lot of like personal stuff go on, and we won't get into those details right now. But in all those trials, like the Bible says, like even in the difficult time, like give thanks to the Lord. And it's
mm,
like in these hard moments, like how can you even like battle through to still like thank the Lord, and he's entrusting him that he's still going to be there, like to get you through it. So that was like the biggest thing because during that time, like I was going to non-denominational services and like started learning more and started questioning like a lot of the stuff that I learned as a Catholic. Um, so that like I think the freedom and the can't think of the word I'm looking for, like the authenticity of
mm.
like breaking down that denominational barrier.
Right.
And this isn't to say that one denomination is better than
Right.
another or anything like that. Like I started to like have more of an authentic relationship with the Lord, and like I desired it more. It wasn't just going
Mm.
through the motions, which kind of has that like Catholic stigma, the sit, stand, kneel, say this prayer kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Kind of the
So
rituals that go along
yeah,
with it.
yep, yep. So when I got baptized, my friend who baptized me, he's like, now that you're following closer with the Lord, like the target on your back from the devil is so much bigger now.
Mm.
And man, is that like so true? Like all
Yeah.
of these like little things, whether it's um going through the motions with some of my stuff, like I catch myself each day like going through some of those motions. I also have a part-time job working in the service industry in Nashville, so I'm
Mhm.
around a lot of like really pretty girls and a
Mm.
lot of alcohol, and so like there's all of these temptations that if I don't stay close to the Lord
Mm.
and following his path, like I'm not completely separating myself from that because we're also like called to be around people different than us, and
Right.
not pass judgment on those people and still love them, but like just continuing to have that faith that I'm not going to revert back to
Mm.
what old Tony would do.
Yeah.
Go out to the bars with them, just make really bad decisions. So
Right.
I think, and unfortunately, Nashville is there's two different types. So there's people, it's the Bible Belt. So people love the Lord
Mm.
and they are very devoted. Um, and there's a lot of people who are here to be seen. Um, so their walk with the Lord is Sunday, and that's it.
Mm.
So also trying not to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
I want to be seen and I want to make a name for myself. Like there's just all of these different pressures and temptations, um, that literally Satan is shooting at your back
Mm.
to try and pull you away from the Lord. So yeah, I mean, if I just like went five different directions with that, but I mean,
That's
that's
okay, but like
like, yeah, it's so true. Like you really have to have on like your armor, like
Mhm.
the Lord talks about. Like you got to be ready, and like if your mind starts to wander, you got to like call it out, call it where it is. Like
Mhm.
Satan, this is not me anymore. Like you do not have this stronghold over my
Mhm.
life. Um, so yeah, I think that's been a big one. And then in that hard time, like a really difficult relationship lost. So as a young single male, and then this is no way to like pick up females. Like have my inbox flooded with girls, but
We
it's
will
like
have his DMs available. Just kidding.
no. It's like there's internal pressure on myself to like as I'm approaching 30, I'm like, I had this
Mm,
grand design for my life, like
yeah.
be married by this time. I'm gonna start having kids. And it's like breaking down that barrier, like, dude, there's no rush in this at all. Even though you would like to have it pan out and like have someone to walk with, like you easily could, like just with
Mhm.
how many people move to Nashville. But if the Lord doesn't put that person in your life, like you're just jumping into to lava. Like it's gonna blow up if you're not being sure that it's what the Lord's called you to. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And don't lose hope. My husband was 32 when we got married. So hang in there, bud. I'm such a
thank you.
matchmaker, though. I'm like, I
Yeah.
love love and I want everyone to experience love. But back to Jesus, one
Yeah.
thing that you said that like really is like sitting with me is the struggle of like that as Christians, we are called to be thankful to God, like despite what is going on in our life and like despite everything in the crap storm that might be happening. Whereas, like, I was thinking, like, okay, so like non believers, they just like they have the freedom to like curse the world and like hate everything and be in a really sour mood all the time. Whereas like Christians, like, yes, like that probably happens. We're not perfect. Um, but despite all of that, we're still called to be thankful for the Lord. And I think that, like, if you're a non believer listening to this, don't let that scare you away. But I think that's like a really powerful, I think is a powerful marker to the heart and mind change that happens when you follow Christ.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I would have never considered myself giving thanks for the trials
Mm,
over a year ago, or even like being a Catholic. Like you that just doesn't pass into your head. Like so, it definitely like it shows your trust in the Lord that while he's putting you through
mhm.
this trial, he's going to be there on the other side to help you
Yeah,
out of it. And the grass, I mean, the cliche, the grass is greener on the other side, but like
yeah,
it really is true. Like once you understand, like the Lord never wants anything terrible to happen to your life. Like he doesn't desire for it to happen and you to like fall away from him. Like he wants you all that much more, to lean on him even in those difficult times. So I think yeah, that just shows like the maturity of the follower when they can see that.
sorry, I was Googling a verse to to be um able to reference of Psalm 23, where I like, even though I walk through the shadow of death, the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Um, for you are with me. And I think that that just shows, man, that's the second time that's come up today for me. Man, whoops.
Wow,
I know. Like God is with
going
you
on here?
through everything. Oh gosh. Holy Spirit, help me.
Yeah.
But I was quoting Isaiah 41 earlier today, and it was like, the Lord is with you. And then this came to mind. But when we are in the valley, when we're in the valleys, God is there with us. And he's not like hanging out at the mountain, like, hey, like, have fun. Like, hey, see you later. Like, see you when you're done. He's walking alongside us through it. Um, and to think of the glory of God doing that with us, that's something cool to sit on. That's something cool to chew on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I love it. All
That's
right,
good.
Tony, let us finish off how I love to finish every episode is what is one thing that our listeners can do to implement a faith building discipline or practice into their life this week? Like, what is one actionable thing that they can take a little nugget, a little breadcrumb, and go make, I don't know, what do you make with breadcrumbs? Fried chicken. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I was like, I haven't had bread in so long. What do you make with it? No, I so with this soap method with our like daily
Mm,
devotional with the church, they have like a gratitude section in the journal.
mhm,
So I am all about finding something. I do three three to six every day of like things to be grateful for. So even if it's just one thing, like there is one thing in your day that you can be thankful for. Write it down, write it in your phone, say it out loud, and like give thanks to Jesus that you had something good go for you today. I think
mhm,
that like not only is that powerful in growing your trust in the Lord, but I mean the research showing how it helps mental health, emotional
mhm,
health, changing that like energy in the body to be more positive and grateful, how that can affect body tissues and even pain and
mhm,
all these other like physical things that are going on in the body, like having that spirit of gratefulness and gratitude, like super easy to do, and it's
mhm,
just a good way to either reflect on the day if you do it at the end or start the day off
mhm.
so I think
Yeah,
that would, yeah.
that's awesome. I was thinking we should probably have like keto beware, like a keto warning. Like we're talking about breadcrumbs here.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, we always had powwow holy cow,
What's that?
which like pow was something bad. Like it's kind of like a high low at the end of the day. Did you
Okay.
ever do like high lows where it was like, what's something good that happened? What's something bad that happened? But it's like
Yeah,
kind of a twist on that where it's powwow, holy cow. So it's like pow, what's something bad that happened? Wow, what's something good that happened? And then holy cow is like, how did you see God move in this day? So
I, I
um
love that.
yeah.
We called it happies and crappies.
I
So one
like that
happy, one
too.
crappy. Yep.
You
Hopefully
gotta
that doesn't just explicit this
No,
podcast.
I've said crap many times on this podcast because guess what? That's real. And sometimes
Yeah.
I have no filter. A lot of
Oh,
the times I
yeah.
have no filter.
Yeah. You
Well,
a couple of curse words every now and then is not going to send you to the gates of hell. Like it's
yeah.
okay.
Fun fact, you probably know this, but cursing is shown to relieve stress in a very physical way. It like
Yeah.
lowers blood pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes, I mean, do you need to get in the habit of it? Probably not.
probably.
But
Hopefully your
but
blood pressure isn't that high always that you need to get into
oh
the
my
habit
gosh,
of
I
it.
know. Yeah, there's something else going on that we gotta think about then.
There's an emotion stored somewhere in your body that needs to get let go in that situation.
Yep.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you or slide into your DMs, single ladies?
Um, yeah, so like I said, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I am starting my own practice. So if you're local and you need a chiropractor, I would love to work with you. But best place to reach me is my Instagram. I do have a professional Instagram account that's just all lowercase Dr. Tony Krohn. Um, and then I do have a personal one, but we'll stick with the professional one because my personal one, I it's it's a little more fun. It's unfiltered,
I
frustrated
love it.
world. So it's not
Oh,
anything that's like very not walking with the faith. It's I just like to kind of call things as they are on that one. So
I had a friend who had a separate Twitter account that was like under a different name, so she could just like tweet at will and just call things out. And yeah,
it's
sometimes that's necessary.
it's just a crazy world, and I like to just have fun with it and get people asking questions. But
Yeah,
for the
fair
sake
enough.
of this conversation,
It's
we'll go
linked in the
into
bio or
we'll
linked
go
in
in.
the show notes, as I will say. Well, Anthony, thank you so much. And oh my gosh, I called you Anthony again. Oh,
Perfect. I honestly I will introduce people as Anthony at church, and then I'll hear someone say Anthony, and I, like, don't respond right away, and then I'm like, "Oh, shoot, I did tell him my name was Anthony." So I'm never consistent how I introduce myself, because it's like, okay, all the legal documents, I'm Anthony, but friends call me Tony, and I'm Tony on Instagram, and I'm just like,
The
I've
thing
created
is
this
too,
trap for myself.
there's a chiropractor that I follow and his name's Arnold. And so this whole time when I was getting ready to talk to you, I was like, don't call him Arnold. Don't call him Arnold. And here I am calling you Anthony. Tony, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you for having me.
Well, besides baffling his name a few times, Tony was the greatest guest I could possibly imagine. If you're in the Nashville area, make sure to check out his practice, and we will see you guys on the next episode.